So, something that I forgot to add was that with Carly and those who leave the church, there's a pattern that's involved that I've seen. And maybe I will put this at the beginning of the video. And so Carly, I guess I'll have to explain her then. She left the church and realized that Joseph Smith was framed, that section 132 is Brigham Young's linguistic pattern. But now she's claiming that she's a new neo-follower of the real, true Jesus. And so she's fallen rather than studying to find out the truth, as I was hoping she would do. And this is what I get into discussion with the Zoramites, the faith crisis that results. And so as you see with the Zoramite story, you see that the Zoramites indoctrinated the people with lies and falsehoods. And so when those who were poor, by having finished the building projects, and so there's no more building projects, and so they're unemployed, and so now they're poor, and thus homeless. And so, bye-bye, get out. You're not contributing to society. We're renovating Salt Lake City, get out. SCOTUS has deemed homelessness a crime, get out, or lock up, prison. And so they go through a faith crisis. Oh no, what do? Our religious beliefs are being challenged as we're being kicked out of our religion. And so Carly has been indoctrinated, being born and raised Mormon, went on a mission, and then had a faith crisis. And so I've noticed that there's things that happen to people depending on what they do after obtaining a faith crisis. One is they get newly indoctrinated by some other fraudster. Christianity, for example. Christianity will swoop in. Psychologists will swoop in to snag Mormons who go through a faith crisis and leave the church. The other is that they get re-indoctrinated back into Mormonism. That their faith crisis, they don't know what to do, they're confused, so they just go back to what they knew. And by doing that, going back and humbling themselves, I'm sorry, Bishop, I fell away, I need to read my scriptures more, I need to pray more, I need to go to church more, I need to pay more tithing. Oh, I'm not allowed to pay more tithing, it has to be 10%. Is there other ways I can pay to have the sale of indulgences? Well, yeah, there are actually. It's called donations, but tithing is not a donation. It's a required 10%. And so this re-indoctrination is a reinforcement of your faith bubble. You become more hard-hearted so that you don't have a faith crisis again. You got to protect yourself from that faith crisis because it was so devastating for you. And then the other one is Alma and Amulek correctly educating and informing the poor Zoramites on the true process. And so they're given corrected information, they're given true information, true facts, true knowledge, being told how to obtain true knowledge, true facts, true information through that faith process, likening the word unto a seed, and you have to plant it and produce the results, the fruit. And so when I was in the younger singles ward, I was hanging out with a woman who was a returned missionary, and we were talking, and I was doing my version of a testimony of actual knowledge, because I produced the results of the Book of Mormon, knowing that it was true. Alma chapter 32, starting verse 28. On faith, Zoramites. I was just talking about it, because that's what I had heard women want from a guy, is a guy who loves the Book of Mormon and is able to talk about it and share his testimony. I didn't realize it was supposed to be the indoctrinated version. And so as I'm explaining all this, producing the word into the results, I'm seeing that she's crying. It's not a good cry. I destroyed her indoctrinated faith. She was going through a faith crisis, and I brought her to tears. With just the Book of Mormon. Oh my God. And so, yeah, I didn't know what to do from that moment. I left. And so, yeah, no follow-up date. And some weeks passed, and then I see her again, and she informed me that she re-indoctrinated herself, that I was wrong, and that a spiritual witness feeling is true, and she felt better about that. Now she was more reinforced into the false belief system. And so, yeah, that's how she was able to handle her faith crisis, by denying the word of the Book of Mormon. So sad. So, yeah, the missionary handbook had taught me better. You're supposed to build on common beliefs, resolve concerns, follow up. So the lack of follow-up and resolving concerns didn't really do very well. But yeah, it's just, I didn't expect tears. What do? Guys are not taught what to do when a woman cries. I'm going out for cigarettes, don't know when I'll be back. Isn't there a country song on that? So, yeah, this is what happened to Carly. She got caught up with another indoctrinator so that she can handle her faith crisis. She tried to study to learn the truth. And she was getting some things right, and I had hope for her, but she was dismissive of me, and so now she's gone off the cuckoo's nest. She flew it over. So it's sad and unfortunate, because even getting re-indoctrinated into something else, yeah, you're still vulnerable to a faith crisis, but you're doing that for the purpose of getting out of your emotional faith crisis. And so there's a tendency to reinforce whatever path you go into. And so, yeah, she would get infuriated with me if I were to dare try to burst her bubble. her that. Because she's trying to pull out of a faith crisis, and she doesn't understand how to learn from the Book of Mormon how to do that. Knowledge prevents faith crisis. So, on with the rest of my video. Trans Wayne gets on. So, starting to heal, feeling the frisky, and getting inspirations galore for new video topics for you guys. And so I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to get to all of them. You know, we got Zelensky here in Utah, who's being purposely kept away from me because the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints does not want him to learn that the church betrayed him, paying Russia to attack. And then the church came out with a first presidency statement telling Ukraine to stand down and establish peace. You know, like Islam did to Israel, of which the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints also paid for. And then there's the assassination plot of Biden by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And so lots of big things to talk about. But apparently I've got to answer Robin's mind. No. Lady Redline is just a thing. It ain't going to go anywhere. That's the way it is with my life. Nothing ever goes anywhere. And so, yeah, I have associative memory. So when I go out and about, when I'm checking the news, putting the pieces together, this is why I go over the church news on weeknights, is because I am able to associate with other things that have been talked about. And so when I happen to go downtown to the Super Smiths, because of the way it happens, I am constantly bumping in to the one woman who goes to work at a specific time. And so the pattern is established. And nothing's going to go anywhere. She's not going to talk. She stays away. It's just the way it is with me and women. They want nothing to do with me. You stay away. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints tells me these feelings I'm having are of the devil. And so I've got to sing a hymn, say a prayer, read my scriptures to get you out of my mind. Theme song in the description below, unless something else comes up better. And so, yeah, I'm still amazed that YouTube freed me from my ban. Not allowed to watch YouTube while signed in, and it's weird because I had, on the day, the very moment that they released the ban, I did the video, YouTube CEO controlled by extremist LDS Church. Just dropped a bombshell on YouTube. And after 2 days, it only had 43 views. Which, wow, that's a lot, Travis. However, notice what came right before and right after. One huge mistake all critics make with authorship of Book of Mormon. 591 views in 4 days. Mormon asks how Book of Mormon and Jesus Christ are Jewish, not Christian. 446 views in 3 days. LDS Church President Dallin H. Oaks explains he has no priesthood keys of authority. 432 views in 3 days. Okay? Compared to 43 views 2 days for the CEO exposure video. And then after, how the Mormon claim to be the one and only true Christian church is false. 419 views in 2 days. Section 119, clickbait, Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. 483 views in 2 days. See the pattern? YouTube is purposely silencing that video. YouTube. Because I gotcha. Bastards. And so, this morning, this is where it is. 592 for one huge mistake. 501, Mormon asks. LDS President Dallin H. Oaks, 437. How the Mormon claim. 507, Section 119, clickbait. 601. YouTube CEO controlled. 45. I see a pattern. I see a pattern. Very easy breezy cover girl, or maybe it's Maybelline. So, apparently Biden has associative memory. Just like me. No. Previous conversations and speeches and discussions by Biden makes it very clear that his current performance is a sign of old age. And it's sad because he's just like a grandpa, defiant that he can still run a mile in under 3 minutes. He doesn't need the blue pill. Etc., etc., etc. Yeah, he's not going to step down. And I can understand. But he just needs to do the Insurrection Act. That's the only thing that's going to save America now. Nobody understands this. Everybody thinks there's hope. Oh, we just got to get out and vote. We got to vote Democrat, otherwise we're all going to die. No, we should not be threatened in our elections. Do you want to be in bondage this election? Vote yes. Seriously, what kind of nightmare scenario are we being thrust upon? That we have to choose not between which party we think is best for America, but whether or not we want to be Nazi. I mean, seriously? I mean, at least Hitler had the decency to pretend to be for the people. before morphing into the monster he became. Here we have it thrust in our face. We know the danger. We know it's coming. And only our government can do anything about it. And yet our government is threatening us that it's our fault if we don't choose correctly. Oh my hell. This is nightmare scenario. And then you got psychologists out and about saying, it's out of your control. Just let it go. Let God and let go. Oh, my kids are being taken away to a concentration camp. I'll just let God and let go. My husband's just been shot as an insurrectionist for doing nothing. He didn't click like on Trump's new video. Let God, let go. I'll trust in Jesus, who never showed. My hell, what is wrong with this nation? And so, I don't get it. Are people that brainwashed by TikTok videos, YouTube videos, that they just scroll to keep watching whatever YouTube tells you to watch? Are you incapable of thinking for yourself and learning how to learn? What good is a prophet and his warning voice if no one heeds his warning voice? Amos 3:7. Surely Lord God will do nothing, save he shall reveal the secrets unto his servants the prophets. And it's not translated correctly, it's actually Aten of Yahweh. But that's higher level learning for you. But you all get the idea. A prophet needs to warn the people in advance. He can't warn the people after it's already happened. You see, you're not weather forecasters if you're reporting on the Category 3 hurricane or tornadoes that struck western New York. You're no longer weather forecasting, you're now reporting the news. So, yeah, you're no longer a prophet if you don't wait until after something happens to then claim, oh yeah, by the way, that was by God. He prophesied of that. Yeah, trust me, because I'm a prophet. No, you got to do it in advance. You can't do it afterward. And so, yeah, Monson revealed himself as a false prophet. Chad Daybell knew it, and then became psycho killer Kiss Kissay. And I believe he's getting the death penalty, isn't he? Yay! Bye-bye. Bye-bye. You can't just create your own Mormonism. And unfortunately, I saw cute little Kelly, as I was reminded of her in the video yesterday. So I went looking for her again, and she's now gone off the deep end. And this is a sad reality that happens. She's now talking about the real Jesus. How to find the real Jesus. And yeah, she's talking like an indoctrinated cult follower who's drinking too much Kool-Aid. It's real sad. And she has to read from a script, I noticed. She's not able to ad-lib like me. And so I've seen this before. I know of it. I know how it happened. And it's the Zoramite, part of the Zoramite faith crisis. And if for some reason you've never read your Book of Mormon, don't have associative memory to remind you of the Zoramites, were a anti-Mormon, anti-Christ cohort branch offs who thought that they could run their own religion and form their own society, leaving Zarahemla, and founded the Zoram, city of Zoram, led by Zoram. And they built up a community. And so you need farmers for food, you need people who make clothing for clothing, because you got to cover up and hide, because nudity is a killer disease, harm to children. Do you know of the original native wear, which during the Book of Mormon supposed literal history time chronology would have been nudity? Yeah, Mormons don't want to think about this. Book of Mormon has to be true. They have to cover up and hide. They were wearing their underwear. Mormons, think. Don't just speak. Think. And so they had to build the government buildings, and they built a synagogue, which is not a cathedral, it's not a church, it's Jewish synagogue. But they created Christian Jesus. The Great Spirit doesn't exist. Just like the Lamanites. The Great Spirit. And it's a mockery of Christianity in the Book of Mormon, in case you didn't know. And so these Christians who replaced the Jews built a Ramiyumtum, in which they gave rote prayers, saying, "Oh God, we thank thee that we are better than our brethren, thou hast chosen us over them to be thy holy people." And yeah, Alma and Amulek were in horror, they fell into shock, and were chased out. And so, once the buildings were all built, there's no job left for the construction workers. And so, they were kicked out. They're poor. They aren't contributing to society. Their SCOTUS had determined that being homeless was a crime. And the poor were kicked out. And they were concerned, oh no, how are we going to worship Jesus on the Sabbath day? Oh no, which day would it have been, Mormons? Would it have been on Saturday or on Sunday? Which day of the calendar week would it have been? Well, I'm sure they would have done the right thing and chose Sunday. This is still pre-Jesus. According to Bruce R. McConkie's timeline that he had it in. And so, yeah, these Zoramites are all sad. They're in a faith crisis. How are we going to worship Jesus one day a week? Oh no, what do we do? Alma and Amulek are there. And they teach them faith. Like in the word unto a seed. And you just believe in the seed and you're good. You now know the fruit. You don't have to produce the fruit, you know spiritual witness feeling that it's true. No! You gotta produce the results of the Word. How do you know if the word of wisdom is true? Well, you stop drinking Mountain Dew, Travis. Then you'll know the word of wisdom is true. But yeah, coffee, tea, tobacco, drugs, depression meds from family services. Yeah. You take them, you get health problems. But that's a little more simplistic thing. Everybody has a dietary thing. So that doesn't mean the church is true. But when it comes to doctrine, like Jesus. Jesus has to be true in the physical reality, or he's not true. And so Constantine, creation of Christianity, created Jesus. That's the name he gave him. Turned the Jewish scriptures into literal history. But nobody would agree on the nature and character. They were all going to stick with their own. So Constantine said homuzion. It means nothing. It's not a Greek word. He made it up. It's composed of Greek characters, but it means nothing. And thus, you'll see in Wikipedia, they put in place of it in the English translation, consubstantial, without substance. Not real. And thus, the word homuzion, likened unto a seed, can never be planted. Because it doesn't exist. You cannot produce any fruit from it. It's dead. Faith without works is dead. Seed without fruit is dead. Homuzion, dead. Ta-da! Just destroyed Christianity. So why is the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints claiming to be Christian? Exactly, Mormons. You never put it to the test, like the Book of Mormon teaches you to. And so Kaylee and Expo Nevermos are these poor Zoramites who've gone through a faith crisis and have left the church, or got excommunicated because they got kicked out. And they don't know what to do. Who do we worship? Do we worship? Do we still worship one day a week? How are we going to do it? Mormons are telling us that we're anti-Mormon, anti-Christ core whores, that we stop studying our scriptures, we stop reading and praying, stop going to church, when actually it was because we were reading our scriptures that we got kicked out for. Mormons are the ones who aren't reading their scriptures, and they're still Mormon. Okay, so that Mormon argument is dead. Because if reading the Word to produce the results causes death, I'm sure a spiritual witness feeling wrongly interpreted of Moroni chapter 10 verses 4 and 5 will definitely produce spiritual witness fruits. It's just, how do people get so confused? I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't get it. And so there's some basic stuff that Mormons need to be informed on. And so, yeah, I've had a guy the other day again asked if I observe the Jewish Sabbath. Oh my God, you missed verse 4, didn't you? You had no clue about the Babylonians, who were the creators of the Sabbath day. And I didn't get into a big discussion about how the Christ of the Jews is the Lord of the Sabbath because of the spellings of Sabbath and seven from Paleo-Hebrew. But verse 4, 1 Nephi chapter 1, see verse 2, yea, I make a record in the language of my father, which consists of the learning of the Jews and the language of the Egyptians. Why the language of the Egyptians? Verse 4, for it came to pass in the commencement of the first year of the reign of Zedekiah, king of Judah. So who is he? Well, he's the brother of Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon, newly created, took over Assyria and conquered and was expanding their empire into Judah. Formally, to this first year, was a part of Egypt. Israel was never an independent nation. Never. It was under the control of Egypt. And then 700s, plus or minus, that's when the Assyrians came in and took over northern Israel. And so the 10 tribes, as we are incorrectly told as literal history, the actual people were deported back into Assyria, and Assyrians were deported into northern Israel. It was a transplanting. Sort of like Jacob's allegory of the vine, whatever, the olive trees, where you see a healthy vine and you cut off a little branch thing and you transplant it onto one that's struggling, and that's in order to help it grow. And that's the process that Assyria used, treating humans as plants. And it was Babylonians, actually, who were the first ones to recognize that if you breed 2 white sheep, you get white babies. So, yeah, Babylon is the first white supremacist. But if you introduce a black sheep with a white sheep, you're going to get spotted sheep. And so then you get the Mosaic laws about pure, undefiled sheep for the sacrifice. It's post-Babylonian. It was not pre-Babylonian. And if you're going to think it's literal history, you're going to get confused, because nobody prior to Babylon had figured out how to purify sheep. Create the white master race of sheep. And you don't see how Babylon being evil is very parallel with Nazi Germany. And so, yeah, they're also the ones who created the 7-day week calendar and didn't want to do any work on the 7th day because that's the 7 number, which was a superstitious number. And so the king had ordered there will be no work done on the 7th day. 7th Sabbath. A slight spelling difference, but that's why. And that's Semitic Hebrew, which is post-captivity, when Jews got assimilated into Babylon. You got to know when things were created and the chronologies of when things were created. You can't just assume that Jesus has always been around in literature as prophecy before he was born in the Roman period time. And so that's what the Book of Mormon is trying to get you to understand, is that the religion is not a Babylonian Jewish. It's not a Christianized Babylonian Jewish. It is a pre-Babylonian Egyptian religion. And so, Jesus is Greek. So when did Greek get invented? Well, it was a branch off from Phoenician, and so it was branched off from Phoenician about 1450 BCE. Same time when David Moses III went to the mountain of Salem during Armageddon 1. What's interesting is that they didn't have a temple, they didn't have a palace until afterward. After the visit of Pharaoh David Moses III, they then built a temple and they built a palace to King David Moses. And so the first king on the throne was King of Salem, Solomon. That's not his name. That's the title. And so the Bible story, yeah, he's using it as prophecy for the latter days. Remember, Jesus is supposed to be the descendant of King David. He's supposed to be Solomon. Using the historical event to talk about a future event. So John the Revelator talks about Armageddon 2. You got to know your history to get prophecy correct. And so if Jesus was a known name as far back as 1450 BC, what about Jesus before then? No. The name Jesus will never appear in any documents prior to the creation of Greek. Is that too complicated? You assume, because the Bible tells you so, and you believe the Bible to be literal history, that the Hebrew existed all the way back to the beginning with Adam. Because Adam is Hebrew. No. And so the Book of Mormon supposedly is written in Egyptian, language of the Egyptians. But it's the learning of the Jews. What about the Jewish language? Paleo-Hebrew. How far back does that go? Well, that's Phoenician. That was pre-Greek. Pre-1450 BCE. Okay? But it wasn't Jesus. It's Joshua. Technically Yahshua, because there is no J. It's technically a visionary language. Well, we won't go into that. That's higher level learning again. So, why did Constantine choose Jesus of the Gospels rather than Jesus that now follows after Deuteronomy? Because they were all separate books. Separate books. You know, Marcion was trying to do an order, but no, it was all separate books. Nobody put them in order. It was not supposed to be put in order. They're not histories. This is why scientists cannot confirm that the book of Joshua is legitimate. It has some towns that they've found in the archaeological record, but the supposed chronological order of the destructions by the Israelites didn't happen in that order, and the time frames of when the destruction supposedly occurred, if we're going to believe the Maimonides was first, I think, to put an order of the chronology, and then there was is he an archbishop? I'm struggling to remember his name here. I don't think it was Augustine, but he also is the one responsible for 404 BCE for Adam, whereas Maimonides is 375 something like that, for when Adam was. They're all wrong. There is no chronological order. It's not literal history. The scriptures are not meant to be put in an order. They're all separate documents. They're all prophecies and revelations of a future time, using a specific historical time period, screwing it up because he's prophesying about the future. But again, higher level learning, too complicated for you guys. You can't understand how the Book of Mormon is not talking about literal history subjects. Too complicated. So the Hebrew, Joshua, was not chosen by Constantine. Strange, because he fits the pattern. He's a man like Moses. Takes the house of Israel into the promised land. With an Exodus. So, yeah, Jesus didn't do that. And so, yeah, you don't look for Jesus in the Paleo-Hebrew documents. You look for Joshua. However, what do you do for the Egyptian now? Because Egyptian does not have Jesus or Joshua, and it's not even an alphabetical language. It too is visionary. And so now what do? We can't find Abraham anywhere in the papyri that Joseph Smith called the Book of Abraham. Just can't do it. Sorry, Joseph, you must be wrong. Oops. Nope, Joseph Smith is right. And this is where you begin to understand how the Jewish authors wrote their prophecies by getting them from the Egyptian documents and reassigning the names of the Egyptian characters to their language, because it's in their language. So yes, Abraham is Osiris for that particular story glyph that Joseph Smith is telling. And so it doesn't matter that it was written during the Greek or the Ptolemaic time period, and that it may be a copy of an older document from the Book of the Dead, and that Joseph Smith is calling I'm thinking Korihor. It's not Korihor. It's not Koresh. Associative memory is screwing me up. See the Elkanah, figure 5, The hawk, son of Horus, is the canopic jar. It's the idolatrous god of Elkanah. It's not the idolatrous god Elkanah. Apologists screw that up. They don't know Egyptian. If you don't know, just say you don't know. Don't fool Mormons into lies. And so, Abraham chapter 1. Oh, there's an Elkanah. They're a priest of Elkanah. And I believe he actually is called Elkanah. Well, all the way you do here, see figure 3, the idolatrous priest of Elkanah. And so, interesting. There's a priest of Elkanah. So it's not Elkanah that's performing the rituals, it's the priest of Elkanah. And let's see if we can find Elkanah in the text. The god of Elkanah. Priest of Elkanah was also a priest of Pharaoh. Gods of. After the priest of Elkanah was smitten that he died. No, okay, they don't ever actually have Elkanah appear in here. So it doesn't matter that Kenah is the actual name and the god is God. God, Kenah. But this is Hebrew. What's Hebrew doing in Egyptian, Joseph? And so, yeah, 3, everybody knows, is Anubis. Mummy who's alive on top of the altar. Lion couch. I'm just, never trust somebody who doesn't know the subject matter. Joseph Smith is brilliant. He knew, remember, prophecy, predicting the future, revelation, day and hour. The start of Abraham's ministry, solar eclipse in the Lion constellation, 21st of August 2017. Brilliant, Joseph. There are all sorts of other facsimiles to have published. He chose only 3. They put them in that order. That's the first day of darkness over the United States of America for the latter days. Brilliant. And so facsimile number 2, an annular solar eclipse, the ring of fire. Brilliant. 14 October 2023. And then, and he even talks about creation with it. Women, Virgo, creation, life, the source of creation. Brilliant, Joseph. And so then, facsimile number 3, didn't really get into a story form of it, but it's a wedding feast, a wedding ceremony. They're holding hands. The prince getting married. Judgment scene. So the latter-day Judgment Day, wedding supper feast of the Lamb at the Zion Temple. Revelation 19, 11 and 17. The third day of darkness. 8 April 2024. Brilliant. everybody misses it because you do not know what they're doing. You do not believe in prophecy and revelation. You're stuck on Jesus. And so, yeah, you don't see how Jesus is a part of any of this because you can't. You don't see Abraham as being Jesus. You don't see Osiris as being Jesus. Jesus is Jesus during the Roman period. And so if you're looking for prophecies of the coming of Jesus, it has to be in the text. But the Jews specifically used this to write the Gospels. Abraham is Jesus, if you're going to talk about a gospel story. And that Caiaphas, the high priest, the one trying to kill Jesus. And an angel of the Lord rescues Jesus from Caiaphas. See how easy it is to do? You're using different names for the characters, but the prophecy and revelation for the time period it's talking about still remains the same. But this actual Egyptian document comes from Kam Ambo because of the crocodile, the god, Sobek, and what is supposed to be in that empty space eaten by rats, the Horus hawk, which also could be Isis conceiving Horus. Joseph Smith talks about him in the text, not just the messenger of the Lord, but the prince of the Lord, Horus, saves Abraham. Insurrection to resurrection. Nobody cared about that video. Sad. Nobody trusts Joseph Smith. Sad. So, yeah, that's how the Jews did it. And this is how corrupt Christianity is that they cannot understand that the gospel stories came from the Egyptian stories and just put in Jesus for the Christ character. But Christians have to claim that Jesus is a literal history character during the Roman period time and therefore do not and will not allow it to come from an Egyptian document with a Osiris or Horus or some other hero story character. And Herod or Caiaphas for the antagonist. And angels announcing the coming of the birth of Horus. You don't see it. It's all hidden from you. The sealed portion. And so thus the Book of Mormon. Lehi, speaking to the people, he is brought before the high priest. Lehi, you're preaching that we're bad, gonna have to murder you. An angel of the Lord appears to Lehi and saves him from being murdered. And so then he goes and takes his family into the wilderness. And they die in the sea from the storm. Which, yeah, the sea travel, Noah and the flood. There you go. Which you can also do the Ark of the Covenant, parting the waters, bringing the Ark of the Covenant through on dry ground. Moses, parting the waters, house of Israel passing through on dry ground. Nile River, floods every year with the red soil from the mountains, turning the waters to blood, and then as it settles and filters off into the Mediterranean Sea through the delta. Then the waters recede and the dry land appears. And the people come in and resume planting and herding. Once you understand those patterns, you can understand what the Jewish author is trying to tell you, and you can see prophecy and revelation for yourself. You can learn how to learn and not be deceived by a Christian who wants to lead you astray and have you believe that Jesus is coming. Where is he? He never showed. You got to deny science now, so that Revelation 19, 11, and 17 are not 8 April 2024 when he should have come. You have to deny the Jewish religion, because you replaced it with Christianity. Christianity must now be forced to be true, but you can't produce any fruit from it. You'll always be wondering, when is Jesus coming? Never. Because you should have put Constantine's creed of Christianity to the test, where he himself tells you it's all a fraud. It's not real. And so Islam, if you're a branch off of Christianity, yeah, you too are not real. You're a branch off of not real. You cannot produce any fruits. Your Jesus didn't show either. And so the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. This is clearly not Joseph's religion. But it too, not real. You can't just change the nature and character, because you've already established that the creed itself is wrong. It cannot produce good fruit. You just can't say that the seed is actually now non-Trinitarian. It still will not produce Jesus in the flesh. So when the church leaders tell you that the President of the United States will hand over the keys of government to Jesus to rule and reign for the millennium, that the world leaders are going to give their keys to Jesus, and that the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints will rule the world, now that you know that Jesus isn't real, what are they actually talking about? They're talking about an insurrection, a coup, a terrorist plot. Because Jesus isn't going to do it, so the leaders of the church have to do it. And thus they are going to murder Biden. They are ordering my channel to be silenced. They don't want me talking with Zelensky. Seeing the pattern now? I hope. Ken. Interesting. I'd have to, like king and then scroll for the K, unless it's the Q, and so it would be the king of prophecy, which would make sense with the H at the end, because normally the H at the end would be for females.